Hey, this is Matt Pressman, editor of Florida Tennis Magazine. I'm here at the Art of Living Retreat Center in North Carolina with Dr. Joel Fuhrman. Very excited to have this conversation today about tennis nutrition, training, fitness, recovery, prep before your matches.
Yeah.
It turns out Dr. Fuhrman is a big tennis fan and a big tennis player. He has people in his family that play tennis as well. And he happens to be a world-renowned expert in nutrition. Been featured on PBS, few 7 New York Times bestsellers, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's a treat being here with you today, and I can't wait to ask you a million questions about tennis and nutrition and fitness, and get your point of view on everything. So welcome. Thanks for doing this for Florida Tennis.
Looking forward to it.
Very cool. Very cool. So first off, I think it's important for our viewers and for our readers to know that you come from an athletic background and were very serious as a junior in the sports world, right? But not through tennis, through a different sport.
Yes, I was an ice skater, figure skater.
Yeah.
So I was second in the United States in pair skating with my sister in 1973. In 1976, we were third in the world, or second or third in the world, I don't even remember anymore.
Yeah.
In the World Professional Figure Skating Championships back in 1976.
Wow.
So yeah, I was a serious competitive figure skater. And then I coached ice skating.
Okay.
And had people and my students trained to compete on international world level too.
Wow.
Yeah.
And on track for Olympic renown, I guess, at some point, right? In your junior track, kind of in ice skating, and
Well, the top 3 in the country go to the Olympics. I was
Okay.
second in 1973
Wow.
in time, but right before the 76 Olympics, I got hurt
Okay.
and couldn't compete because I pushed my calcaneus to the bottom of my foot. But in any case, yeah, I missed the Olympic Games, even though I was ranked number 1 in the country in 1974. But
And the training you did, from what I've gathered from other interviews with you, is pretty intense, right? On the level of most tennis players who are really serious at a junior level. How many hours a day were you training?
well, probably eating, sleeping, and training. It was pretty, but
Right.
if I wasn't, in any case, yeah, I mean, I went to college and I did skate and train while went through college. Most of the competitive athletes at that level aren't going to college,
Okay.
but when you're going to college, you don't have to be in class all day long.
Right.
It's like 3 hours of class. So I was usually training from 3 in the morning until 7 in the morning, like when the rinks were empty.
Okay.
We trained for 3 or 4 hours at night. Then I would go to school, and then after school I would weightlift or run behind the car, or be running with weights on your back, or be doing so. And then you have so I'd be training, maybe 3 to 5 hours a day,
Wow. Okay.
Um,
Serious stuff. So definitely went far in athletics as a young
Right.
man. Transitioned eventually into the role as a doctor in New Jersey, and then eventually became very famous for your Nutritarian philosophy on diet.
Right.
My own story, we talked a little bit about off camera. I was trying primal and carnivore and all these different diets as a competitive tennis player. Finally found a whole foods plant-based diet, which was incredible for me to get rid of inflammation and to really help me feel young again on the court. But everyone gives me trouble about it. What about the protein? And so it's great to talk to you a little bit about get the philosophy and why a whole foods plant-based diet for tennis players and athletes in general may make sense.
Right.
Let's start
Well,
there. Yeah.
Well, don't forget, I'm recommending a Nutritarian diet.
Right.
And a whole food plant-based diet can be good or not so good, depending on how it's designed.
Okay.
Most whole food plant-based diets give you about 15 grams of protein per 500 calories.
Right.
15 grams of protein per 500 calories. So if you're eating 2,000 calories, you get about 60 grams of protein. Now, a Nutritarian diet gives you about 25 grams of protein per 500 calories. It's the diet I and Novak Djokovic and Serena, Venus Williams.
Yeah.
Serena is not as strict in the diet as Venus
Yeah.
was.
True.
Because Venus had Sjogren's disease.
Yeah.
Had an autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
Which she had to leave the tennis tour, and she had to switch over to a diet like I'm recommending to get better from her autoimmune condition so she could play again.
Right.
But in any case, and the stories with Novak Djokovic too. He switched to his diet, enabled him to have better stamina. And I've, as a nutritional specialist, physician, and an advocate for such healthy eating, I've spoken to many Olympic and serious professional athletes, And a lot of these athletes have extended their careers in their sports. For example, Eric Schlappi was in 4 Olympic Games in downhill skiing
Okay.
until he was 36 years old.
Yeah.
Now, there's no people competing at that age in downhill skiing because it's into 4 Olympic Games. It's 4 years apart, because the top people are only like a tenth of a second apart from each other. You know what I mean? So you have to be. But in any case, what we found is that it doesn't just improve their stamina, because the main thing is cardiorespiratory conditioning. That's the main thing it helps with.
Right.
But many of these basketball players, tennis players, and skiers are doing this so they don't get ill and catch viral infections. It improves their immunity. When you improve their immunity, their training can be calculated to peak for the event without being interrupted by getting a virus, a sickness, or a cold, which could shoot. Like, look at somebody like competing in the NBA Finals, Dwayne Wade, in like 15 years ago. He missed his opportunity at the NBA Finals because he had a flu. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we of all these. So Eric would say to me, I'd make about 500,000 from all these endorsement deals I get. And if I don't eat healthy, like if I bring my Vitamix and eat my green, shakes, all the healthy food. And when I'm shaking hands and traveling on planes and traveling over the world, I don't get sick anymore. I don't catch a cold. I'm not out of training for a week or so that difference enables me to keep my training going each day, be top at the event when I'm competing, not worrying about getting sick, and then have consistency and not burnout. Because if you're like weak for 4 or 5 days with your illness, you just blew your month of training.
Yeah.
You're not going to be the top 5 in the world if you're a week on your back in bed. You know what I mean? I used to miss 2 days of training, and it would take me 4 days to get back to my form, because the fine degree of musculoskeletal coordination and conditioning you had from continuing to train every single day, and your jump is off just a little bit, your balance and your timing's off just a little bit when you're out of training one day. Even 1 or 2 days off, you're not as good as you. Even taking Saturday or Sunday off, on Monday it'd be a little off. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So no matter what your training routine is, let's say if you're in the gym or you're doing cardio or anaerobic training, at the end of the day, the diet is critical, right? Because if you're sick and you're not feeling well, then you're not training at all.
Right. So yeah. You're not training at all, and it sets you back. You got to start, and you lose your stamina. And plus the fact that having a diet so high in phytochemicals and antioxidants means that your cells can better oxygenate, better circulation. Because we know that, for example, there's a lot of reasons why. We're talking about better cardiorespiratory conditioning, and we're talking about these athletes doing it to prolong their careers.
Sure.
Because the urea, the uric acid, the ammonia, and TMAO, trimethylamine oxide, these are factors that drive up inflammation, age your joints, ages your cartilage, ages your bone, you get calcifications, you get more likely to get injuries. And those have to do with a combination of processed foods and animal products in the diet.
Yeah.
And cooked oil and heated oils.
Right.
One of the hallmarks of a nutritarian diet is that we don't get our fat from animal fats and oils. We get our fat from nuts and seeds and avocados, which are cold and not heated. There's no rancidity in those fats, but the fats are mixed with proteins. So if you're putting oil on your food instead of the same amount of calories from nuts and seeds, you just took 15 grams of protein out of your diet, because you could have had the almonds, the walnuts, and the hemp seeds as a source of your salad dressing, mixed with the tomato paste and the roasted garlic, and then and one other is your flavoring, your little bit of miso. You could have made that salad dressing that contained the flavor and the protein and the sterols and the antioxidants and the bioflavonoids, or you could have just put oil on your food, rancid oil, had no protein in it, and you just took 15, the same amount of calories, whether you remove the protein from your diet. So we can adjust a plant-based diet to modulate your protein to be higher than a diet that's based on meat.
Yeah.
Because most plant-based diets give about 12 to 15% protein.
Okay.
The Nutritarian diet is about 16 to 18% protein, maybe. Sometimes you can go up to 20% protein in a Nutritarian diet as an athlete.
Right.
And people eating meat and French fries and burgers and pizza, and they get their protein usually in the 16 to 18% range.
Right.
So we usually have more protein per calorie and more overall protein per phytochemical load than a person eating animal products. And we're doing it because the foods that protect your joints and give you the protein for muscle strength At the same time, the anti-inflammatory effects are beans, legumes like lentils, nuts and seeds, and green vegetables like artichokes and asparagus and string beans and broccoli. So when you mix greens and beans and nuts and seeds together in the same meal, you push up that protein with more anti-inflammatory substances.
So two things here, really important. I've been watching a lot of Dr. Fuhrman's videos and reading your books.
Mhm.
There's the G bombs, right? That's
Right.
a great way to capture like a cool way of thinking about what do I really need to eat to have a healthy diet. So
Right.
can you tell us a little about the G bombs?
Yeah. So what I'm saying here is that
What does it stand for again?
the G bombs. What I'm saying is that these foods that have the most scientific evidence to extend human lifespan and prevent cancer are also most helpful to prevent chronic diseases, injuries, and prevent heart disease. They don't just protect against cancer.
Right.
They protect against almost all diseases when you eat these foods regularly. So we're talking about the body being in better health. So the G bombs stands for greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries and cherries, and pomegranate, other high nutrient fruits, and nuts and seeds or nuts. Seeds.
And nuts are seeds, right? So it's kind of, yeah.
Well, we're emphasizing flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, and sunflower seeds and sesame seeds, because the three seeds that have the most lignins that fight cancer, particularly breast and prostate cancer, the high lignin seeds are flax, chia, and sesame seeds have the most lignins. So
not hemp seeds then?
No, hemp seeds have a higher omega-3 in protein.
Okay, got it.
We want people to put hemp seeds in their food.
Yeah.
More protein, more omega-3.
Yeah.
But we also want them to regularly have flax, chia, and sesame because those lignins have powerful anti-cancer effects, particularly with the hormonally sensitive cancers. So the lignins support the growth of the healthy bacteria in the gut that create the enterolignins that bind the estrogen, that give you estrogen balance and prevent estrogen stimulation of the breast or the prostate.
Okay.
And when you eat more animal protein, it builds more of the bacteria that produce these pro-inflammatory substances called TMAO, trimethylamine oxide, which causes inflammation in the interior lining of the blood vessel, also increasing risk of dementia and cancer, and also interfering with blood flow in the microcirculation, aging your cartilage, faster. Because the cartilage of the joint gets most of its blood supply through diffusion through the joint capsule, that means very fine, pinpoint, microscopic circulation of blood into that area, which can be easily impaired by sludging of the blood, by too much fat in the blood after you eat a meal.
Right.
The fat in the blood after the meal is scientifically called the lipemic load.
Okay.
Lipemic load. The sugar in the blood after the meal is called the glycemic load.
Okay.
The combination of the lipemic load and the glycemic load is how many calories went into your blood after that meal. And that high caloric surge gets people addicted. It affects dopamine in the brain. They get addicted to want to eat this high surge of calories that age our body.
Yeah.
See, when you get your fat from nuts and seeds, or your carbohydrates from
healthy fats,
healthy fats, those come into the bloodstream slowly over a 4-hour period, keeping your blood sugar stable, you don't store it as body fat.
Almost like a slow release medication, right?
It's slow release. Nuts and seeds are slow release fat. Beans are slow release carbohydrate.
Right.
It's there, and they build the healthy bacteria in the gut. So you have slow release, sustained energy, and
versus direct.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's no dip out,
Yeah.
like you're dipping and I hate these people think, I got to eat before I play tennis. I got to have some food before I go to the gym. No, you don't. You should be in good health. You should feel good all the time. From the time you wake up in the morning till you go to bed at night, you should have sustained energy that you're always, call me. I'm going to be coming home from work in the car, driving my car home from work, and somebody calls me up and say, hey, Joel, there's a tennis court available at 6:00. I'll meet you over there. I'll skip dinner. Yeah. I'll go play tennis. I'll eat later after dinner. Just because I'm hungry, I don't have to go eat. Right. I'll just, you got to, in other words, when you're in good health, you're good at all times.
Right? Now, of course, our readers and viewers are going to want to know, what would you consider the ultimate pre-match meal? And then what would you consider the ultimate post-match meal, right? And let me just back up a bit and say, there's all these theories on carb loading. So I have pasta the night before, so I have a lot of energy. And afterwards, I got to load up on protein to make sure I recover my muscles the right way. Are these myths? I mean, what is the correct way of thinking about pre-match and post-match meals for tennis players?
they shouldn't be worrying about that at all.
At all. Right.
They're not in 5-hour tennis matches at Wimbledon, at the world level, or Roland Garros.
Yeah.
They're not going to be, they're not the top 3 in the world putting out that amount of energy. It's irrelevant for a recreational tennis player. Yeah. We're not burning out. I play a hard tennis match, and sometimes I want to play like an hour and 45 minutes or 2 hours, and I'm wiped out. But I still didn't need to have a special diet for that. It's 2 hours of recreational tennis. Even if I'm hitting hard, for an hour and a half without serves, just to get more tired, I'm still, to not even stop. I still don't need to preload or, sure, you want your diet to be nutritionally adequate the whole day. Right. And after I come back from a hard tennis match, I want to rehydrate.
Right.
And I want to have some watermelon or something, and I want to have a nice meal.
Right.
But I'm going to eat a regular meal I always eat. I'm always eating a high protein meal. I'm always eating a meal that's rich in plant protein.
Right.
Keep in mind, what I'm saying here is that this is non-controversial. It's not a controversy.
Right.
That is, increasing levels of animal protein in the diet shorten lifespan.
Yeah.
More than 20 different studies show that higher amounts of animal protein shorten lifespan and stress the body, and that increases risk of cardiovascular death and cancer death. Right. And increasing consumption of plant proteins lengthen lifespan. At the same time, better circulation, better oxygenation of tissue, less aging of the joints. So we're essentially saying eat less, not eat protein,
right?
But eat plant protein, not animal protein. Plant protein are hemp seeds, almonds, pumpkin seeds, broccoli, edamame, green vegetables, artichokes. We're eating plenty of beans and lentils. Those things are all really high in protein, but they're proteins packaged with antioxidants and fibers and sterols and stanols and things that don't inflame the body. So they're phytochemical rich. So it's a completely, and also they don't create the caloric rush. The surge of protein in your bloodstream is you can't go out there and play a tennis match after you had a big meal because there's too much calories in the blood, and your body is too sluggish. Your body is going to be
too
slow digesting meal. So you got to eat you got to eat earlier in the day, or eat a lighter meal. We're talking about a lighter meal. So you don't want to eat within an hour or even 2 hours of playing if you really have a serious match. And then after you play tennis, just have a normal, good heavy meal.
Yeah, maybe high water content foods to kind of rehydrate.
High water content food rehydrate, and then eat your good foods.
And then so all this talk about protein, I'm glad we're addressing it, the right way. It's valid. You should have your protein, but one thing everybody's missing is fiber, right? It's unbelievable the amount of fiber that people are missing in their diet.
People equate protein with animal protein. They don't recognize that beans are high. So don't forget, beans are a mixture of protein and mostly carbohydrate.
Right.
But the carbohydrate in bean, a lot of that's resistant starch and slowly digestible carbohydrates that feed into the bloodstream very slowly. And the resistant starch pass through into the digestive tract. The calories don't get absorbed.
Right.
Out of the amount of totally absorbable calories, the percent of protein in beans and lentils is like higher than most meat.
Yeah.
Considering the fat content of most marbled meats, you have it. So we're talking about beans giving you sustainable, high levels of protein, especially when you put some fat in the meal, because you have the nuts and seeds as your source of fat, which also contain protein.
Yeah.
But the fat content of that meal facilitates the absorption of the anti-cancer phytochemicals and antioxidants. We're saying here that your longevity of your career as a tennis player or a basketball player or a world-class runner or biker or skier, your length of your professional high performance.
Looking at Djokovic, for instance, right? Or Serena Williams and Venus Williams. Yeah.
It's linked to it's the micronutrient content of your cells in conjunction with the toxicity of your cells. More toxins, less nutrients, or more nutrients, less toxins. The more you put more phytonutrients in the cell, the more the body can remove carcinogens and other toxins that build up, including the reactive oxygen species that age us, and the lipofuscin and cross-linking agents that age us, or the ammonia and the formaldehyde that age us. They're just the normal product of cellular metabolism.
Yeah.
Just exercising and living produces free radicals.
Yeah.
So we want to diffuse those free radicals with a lot of antioxidants and phytonutrients, meaning these colorful plants. If your diet is mostly pizza and pasta and meats and burgers,
right.
You're phytochemical deficient. You're not clearing out reactive oxygen species.
Right? Yeah.
You're aging your joints. You're aging your cartilage. You're leading to calcification of tissues. You're hobbling around with arthritis in your later years.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I'm almost 72, and I can play hours of tennis at a high level of aggressiveness
Yeah.
and speed on the court. And I could probably beat some old-time tennis players who are pros because they can't move on the court like I can move. And I can't play people my own age because they're too sluggish. They can't move fast enough.
Yeah.
Or they want to play doubles.
Yeah.
Now, doubles is okay socially, but it's not enough exercise. It's not enough running around. You know what I mean?
It's so funny hearing you talk about this because it's like, you know, I'm also thinking about a lot of athletes. You're talking about the macros. You got to get your macros.
Yeah,
There's no mention of micronutrients. There's no mention of phytochemicals.
Speaking of the macro, you have John McEnroe.
Yeah.
Right? Right. He's a great guy, but he's too slow on the tennis court now.
Yeah.
He's got arthritic. He's got too much arthritis in his joints. He didn't eat healthy enough. You know, he's younger than I am.
That's crazy. Yeah. No, it's so true. So
both
true.
Jimmy Connors and John McEnroe, you could see the effects of their diet on their bodies at present.
Yeah.
Because they're older now.
Right.
And I'm saying get to be 50, 60, 70, 80, and keep your body in better shape by watching your diet when you're young.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can get away with it to some degree when you're younger. But as you get older, at least what I found is,
as you get older, it takes its toll on you.
I mean, what a difference. I started to change my diet, follow the Nutritarian formula, the G bombs that you recommend, and all the inflammation gone. Like, I mean, you know, it obviously you still get some aches and pains playing hard tennis, competitive tennis, but it's been a remarkable what diet has done more than all the other modalities I've tried. We talk about stem cells and PRP.
Yeah.
You know, shockwave, and I've tried it all. I mean, cryotherapy, and they're all wonderful. They do that. They have their part in their role, but diet has been amazing, at least for me.
Now, you know, I was into injury prevention. I myself got injured in my sport and had to, you know, miss the Olympics. And I trained world-class Olympic athletes. We're always thinking of injury prevention and keeping them well in between and peaking for their events so they're in great shape. You know, not over. But in any case, we look at the strength of their bones, right?
Right.
And we analyze the strength of their bones. There's new technology like
DEXA-scan?
No, DEXA-scan involves radiation. The Echolight REMS, bone fragility and bone strength without radiation.
Yeah.
And we use a lymph machine to build back bone mass and bone strength in people who are prone to injury. But we're also looking at the structures of their feet and their balance and their technique of their sport, right?
Yeah.
So number one, you start from the base. People have to have their feet in the right alignment. So that means most people we see, if they're pronated, they need an orthotic to keep their feet in the right position.
Because they're collapsed.
Because they're collapsed inward, which puts more weight on the medial condyle, so they'll wear out the inside of their knees and will cut short their tennis career.
Yeah.
So we have to
make its way up to the hip.
Make it up to the hip.
Kinetic chain.
The kinetic chain up to the hip and the back too.
Yeah.
So your back, your hip, and your knees bending on your base of your feet. So your feet have to be in alignment. It's not sufficient to wear the alignment in your ski boot and your tennis sneakers. You have to wear it all the time.
Yeah.
Recreational walking around, because just walking around out of alignment puts more wear and tear on the inside of your knee.
Yeah.
And you're building, so that's number one. If you do have arthritic damage, the type of shock wave we recommend is soft wave. Okay. It's a type of shock wave, soft wave TRT, that goes wider and deeper into the tissues. Because a lot of the shock wave that are kind of like pneumatic or mechanical shocks are too irritating to the joint, especially if you're playing tennis. You can't wait a month for it to recover.
Yeah. But
the soft wave technique doesn't injure the joint and helps stimulate stem cells and breaks down the calcifications with more protection for the tissue, so you can keep playing tennis. Yeah. I can treat your knees and you can go back to playing tennis right away.
Bo, how many days a week are you playing tennis right now?
Like 3 days a week.
So you're serious about it. And one other thing, not only are you working with pro athletes and Olympic level athletes, but someone right in your family is a serious competitive tennis player, right?
No, she used to be. Not anymore.
To be. Okay.
Yeah.
But played a lot when she was young.
Yeah, she played hours and hours each day.
Yeah.
And she played with those people you knew. She trained at those places in Florida.
Yeah.
She played, can I mention names?
Yeah.
She trained with Steve Smith and Vic Braden and and Jim Klein in Pennsylvania, all these top tennis pros.
Yeah.
And in those days.
So you were deep in the tennis world as a tennis dad.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And I was playing with her every day, every morning before school. When she was in elementary school, we would go out there. So she had to be at school at 8 in the morning, 6 to 7:30 in the morning. We were playing tennis every morning before school. But I would, be able to, do drop hits to her to like 150 backhands in a row. You know what I mean?
So backing up to the pro game right now, you look at the sort of the old guard,
Yeah,
leaving
right.
the sport. Now Djokovic is the last man standing, and he has had a whole food plant-based diet that's really helped him, I guess, elongate his career.
And help
Yeah,
his stamina.
yeah, helped
He
his
used to
stamina.
fade in the fourth and fifth
Yeah,
sets.
yeah,
So now he can go, he can do better when he's tired. Us Nutritarians, we never get tired.
yeah.
I can play, never get tired. I'm just saying, oh, so just we don't ever tire
Right.
because we're,
And then also, Serena and Venus, like you said, Venus is more kind of dedicated to the whole food plant.
Venus is more dedicated.
Serena
Yeah.
has been has
moved in that direction. Yeah.
moved in that direction as well.
Yeah.
So these two, remarkable athletes that are legends in the sport as well. So it's no kind of wonder that the top in both sides of the men's and women's game took on this diet to really improve and to make it so long and lengthy in their career. Now, looking at the new kids coming up, like a Sinner and like an Alcaraz,
Yeah.
if you were to give them dietary advice, what would you say if they're out there eating pizzas and burgers and, they're still 20, 21 years old?
They know what Djokovic is doing.
Yeah.
They're not, I'll tell you what, that when you're talking about Murray and Federer and Djokovic and Nadal, they all watched their diet.
Yeah.
They didn't drink. They didn't booze it up. Right. They didn't eat fried foods. They didn't go to fast food restaurants. They were eating salad, and they carried their shakes, and they had the nutritious with them, and they were mixing the greens and the spinach and the lettuce in their shakes. They were not dumb about watching their diet.
Right.
I don't know enough about Sinner and Alcaraz right now, what they're eating, but I know they're pretty smart people advising them, and they have coaches, and they watch their what they're eating. You know what I mean? But in any case, yes, as they move in this, the more they move in this direction, the more they're going to prolong their career.
Right.
And these guys are fit and watching what they eat, or they wouldn't be. They're hardly ever sick too.
Yeah.
So,
and they're traveling all the time.
They're traveling.
Bombarding their bodies.
You've got to eat your green vegetables.
Yeah.
We're green vegetable dependent animals, and our lifespan is dependent on. And so, eating a big salad every day, and the Nutritarian salad is structured. And I have all these professional athletes doing it, including basketball players.
Yeah.
They're doing which is what a Nutritarian salad is. They have half lettuce.
Okay.
And the other half is like arugula and spinach and the high protein, high isothiocyanate, high anti-cancer vegetables. They have onion or scallion in there. They have tomato, of course, and then their dressing on top of the salad is made from nuts and seeds, which increase the protein absorbability of the nutrients. So they put in almonds and hemp seeds and cashews for flavor, and they blend it in soy milk. And then they'll put tomato sauce, roasted garlic, a little bit of miso. They'll flavor it nutritionally. Right. They'll flavor it up. Mustard, they'll put it in there. But they have their high protein. Even the salad dressing is high in protein. They're not wasting calories on oil. They're having their really big salads. Or a lot of these athletes travel with their high-powered blenders, like the Vitamix blenders, and they're making smoothies.
Right.
They're putting in, almond milk and soy milk, but they're putting in green vegetables, flax seeds, chia seeds, almonds, Mediterranean pine nuts. They're putting in their high protein, and then maybe putting some black lentils in there.
Right.
So I have these athletes doing these high protein, high nutrient drinks,
and it's helping them, right? It's powering them up.
It's powering up. They know, and the coaches are doing it. So I have a lot of these world-class coaches contact me and have me speak to the Olympic teams and speak to the Olympic athletes to get them eating better. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So eat your fruits and vegetables, guys. Make sure you're doing that. So important. You've heard it since you're a kid. But for whatever reason right now, everything around diet seems to be geared towards just protein. That's part of the picture like we talked about today, but it's so much bigger than that. And the G-BOMBS, I feel like, is such a great, acronym way of thinking about how to get the right foods into your diet during the day. It's a really brilliant approach.
And then there's the technique.
Right.
It's, there's the recreational players and the club players and kids going up, and I'm pretty an advocate of using the old school technique for recreational players and kids learning tennis. Unless you're a world-class athlete and your arms are not developed where you're playing, you're playing tennis every day, you can handle the windshield wiper technique.
Right.
The old Vic Braden technique, you kept your racket high, you made the circular motion going down and up through the ball with vertical strings, continuing to aim to your target and up over your head. That puts less strain on the shoulder and the arm. Your body's more in the kinetic chain.
Right.
And then when you develop the strength and the ability, then you put more whip and more open stance and whip across your body more. But if you start trying to copy these professional across the body windshield wiper techniques, and you haven't developed the musculature, the strength, the repetitive, and then people whip around too much. They don't get their train getting upward and then add the whip on the up motion.
Right.
They get to start whipping too early and they lose control of where their shots are hitting anyway.
Yeah.
It's better to go back to the basics with the Vic Braden, technique, a vertical hit, go the old school technique. And then if you're good enough and you're playing enough and you want to get at that competitive level and you want to add on the windshield wiper on top of that technique, you add it on. Yeah. But for most older players my age, they're better off not doing that. More prone to a tennis elbow.
Yeah.
And when a kid
and wrist issues,
because
the old school technique was much more neutral wrist, and you get into these, start whipping.
Yeah, don't teach a beginner to do a wrist whip across the body. Teach them the Vic Braden technique. Let them be a good tennis player first. Then they can start to want to put a little more.
And I can see the lefty, so I know there's a big can opener serve there somewhere, and
I could put a lot of slice on my lefty serve to bring you off the court there.
I love McEnroe, right? Was my favorite growing up. So that's great. Well, it's so great talking to you today. Anything else you would recommend for our readers and viewers who are tennis players about what they need to do to become better players, just across the board? Anything we didn't touch on?
Yes, they have to take care of their Achilles tendon.
Okay.
Because you don't want a person getting older. Well, didn't one of the famous professional players like Rudd? Didn't he just break his Achilles?
Casper Ruud. Oh no, was it Casper Ruud who just did that? Yeah, just Holger Rune.
Holger Rune just ripped his Achilles tendon.
Yeah, I just read about it. Yeah. So that's trouble. And plantar fasciitis is a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
Players, right. So feet health are so important.
Feet health is so important.
The sneakers, the inserts.
The cushioning. We were talking about they have. If you're a tennis player, you got to work out your Achilles tendon off the court, which means you have to stretch your Achilles tendon by having those slant boards where you stand on the slant board and you drop your heel down. Yeah. You've got to do that every day. You got to keep your Achilles tendons flexible, and you got to strengthen your Achilles tendon with doing one-legged toe raises. Yeah. You've got to be doing one-legged toe raises so you have a strong. So you're dropping the ball of your foot on the edge of a staircase, and you're dropping your heel down, and you're lifting up as high as you can do on one leg to keep your Achilles tendon strong, and you're stretching it.
And how about descending? You want to slow the descend as you're doing that, right? To build
slow the descend, stretch the descend, push up. And if you can't do 20 reps on one leg, don't be running around the tennis court. You're going to injure yourself.
You're looking for trouble.
You're looking for trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to have a strong Achilles tendon.
Exactly.
So, and maybe this guy, it could have been his diet.
Yeah.
It could have been too much junk food, but it could also be he's got too tight of an Achilles tendon. Yeah. Maybe he's not stretching his Achilles tendon enough. Yeah. You have to have a flexible Achilles tendon to be able to do the burst of explosion of speed. Yeah.
Yeah. And then all the long cardio, being in a 5-hour match is 5-setter.
But they're doing that. They're training the cardio. Yeah. So it's got to. So they know they're training the cardio. Right. Because tennis trains your cardio. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's got to be. It's the strength training and the stretching they got to be missing. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure.
With the good diet.
Yeah.
Everything, because you need because if you don't eat right, your tissues are more likely going to rupture. Poor oxygenation of tissues, more sludging of the blood into the tissue, more inflammation, more calcifications in the tendon. So you got to eat right and do all the exercises right.
Yeah. So young players out there, in Florida, there's the academies. There's so many great juniors. We got Orange Bowl coming up. We've got Little Mo coming up. We've got Eddie Hurd. All these amazing tournaments. Young players, please eat your fruits and vegetables. Think about more than just protein, animal protein. There are other ways to go about
Eat your greens and your beans and your nuts.
Right.
Greens, beans, and nuts. You guys should say greens, beans, and nuts every time you play tennis. You eat the foods to build a healthy body. Yeah. You can't be great unless you're building a healthy body, especially when you guys get older. Yeah. So train.
If our readers and viewers are interested in learning more about you, where can they find more information? And I know there's books.
drfuhrman.com.
drfuhrman.com. Okay, great.
And at my office in San Diego, obviously, we can analyze a person's bones without radiation with our Echolight REMS. And we have both the soft wave machine and the lymph machine, which can heal tissue and build bone mass and help heal it and help build back bone fractures and stress fractures faster. So in the professional athletes in Europe, they all have the lymph machines and the soft wave machine developed in Germany, the lymph machine developed in Italy, and all the European athletes are using these really new tech machines. And the Americans, we're just stuck behind old because it's all insurance and not getting approval to insurance to pay for the new equipment. So nobody wants to buy the new expensive equipment. So in other words, protect yourself, heal yourself, and don't use drugs, don't do surgery. Right. We have natural new therapies that can keep you well and get you well faster.
You got it. So check out Dr. Fuhrman, folks.
drfuhrman.com.
Yeah, drfuhrman.com. And thank you again for taking time with Florida Tennis Magazine. We really appreciate it. Big fans of your work and looking forward to learning more this week in North Carolina.
That's
Thank you.
terrific.